Ooh, I like the vibe, and I like that both of us. It somehow feels cozier, like a conversation.
No breaks. It's like anything can be edited out, and then we just go. Okay, part 2.
Mm-hmm.
3, 2, 1, record.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tanya Stupak, and I'm glad to see you on my podcast. Here we talk about entrepreneurship, the raw truth about challenges, all the stuff that is happening along the way, and just without any sugarcoating. And I'm glad to see on the first episode my special guest, Daniel. Dan, hello, and please share more about yourself, all the challenges, and maybe introduce yourself as well.
Great honor to be a guest on your pilot of your new podcast. I think starting new things is a very special thing, so I don't take this for granted. For people who don't know me, my name is Daniel Karim, and I'm a founder and podcaster and author, and I operate in the intersection between psychology, leadership, and technology.
Mm-hmm. Please share with me, how did you get into entrepreneurship? How was it? Maybe a little bit how your childhood also impacted the way you made this choice.
I think true entrepreneurs and founders don't make a choice. It's more like the choice is being made for them. When I was a teenager, I got kicked off from school after having numerous troublemaking incidents, like getting into the fights or not going to school at all, having endless debates with my teacher. At some point, they had enough with me, and I was permanently not allowed to participate in the German educational system anymore. And I think I was like 16 or something when they really legally prohibited me from going to school anymore. And when that happened, I had to start to educate myself pretty much in a way. Like the first question I had to ask myself as an exile, because I lost all my friends and I lost pretty much any system that had a plan for me. So first thing I had to do is I had to ask myself, well, if I have to educate myself into something, and what's the best possible thing I could potentially educate myself into? And I didn't really have an answer to the question, so I just went to the library and started to read everything I could about great people and how they educated themselves. And one of the mentors I had during this time who supported me was my father. And my father is probably the most interesting man I've ever met, and I've met an awful lot of people. He's a former spy, he deal with Julie, he was in the army, he's been politically persecuted, he was a millionaire, he lost it all. He's like a catch me if you can kind of character who always had a foot in the underground. And when I was kicked from school, he was at that time in prison. And when I got kicked from school, I started to have a penship with my father where I would ask him questions about life, and he would usually return with stories and homework assignments for myself. So I think my entrepreneurial career really started then, when I was away from the traditional system and in collaboration with my father and the great authors of the past through these books. I pretty much started to develop agency and the ability to make my own visions and ideas and strategies, because I just didn't have like a like a path that was set for me. It was like society was done with me, and I was like, so I had to find a way for myself. And many of the first books that I read were by people who had entrepreneurial backgrounds. So that's like when I think I started to like my path into this direction.
So as I can see, your father made a big impact on you. And what was maybe the biggest lesson that you have learned from him? Or maybe his teachings, the way he explained the world to you?
There are many lessons, but one of the things, my father was like a Morphean mentor. He was like Morpheus from the Matrix, where no matter what happened to me or how far I strayed from the path, he always protected my myth, my story, that I would contribute something very special to the world. He believed in me like almost like in a fanatical way, where it's like there was never any doubt for him that I wouldn't contribute something tremendous to the world. And I think the biggest lesson I learned is that it just takes one person for you to believe in you to do the unbelievable. And it's even if you are like don't have the talent, but there's like something wonderful going on if you can find one person who just unconditionally expects you to have a significant role to play in the song of life. So belief is the word that comes to my mind first when I think of my father.
And how did you support yourself in tough situations? In moments when you realized, okay, nothing is working in the moment, how did you support yourself? Especially, for example, you had the supportive father, maybe a close environment around you, but what did you do yourself as to be your own support system?
Yeah. Writing a book right now. It's actually called How to Become Your Own Messiah or Savior. And again, since I've talked just about my father, one of the things I witnessed him do is when you don't have a passport anymore, you are excluded from the traditional system. So he and I were both exiles in our own way, like me a lesser degree, but he too. And I often, like when they, for instance, like took one of his bank accounts or when he didn't have any money anymore, he never lost any faith. And it was like he was like this person who just knew he would figure it out. And he would always say stuff like, a man only needs a cigar and a piece of paper to change the world. And then he would just leave with no money. And 4 days later, he would come and he would have like $10,000 or something. I never understood it. My father's more like a like a like a ghost kind of person, but for his temperament, he's like a CFO for hire, pretty much in a way. So he could do organized stuff. And that was always something that kept to my mind, that even if I don't know how to make money right now, I will find it, the possibility of me finding a way always exists. So in the beginnings of my entrepreneurial career, I actually didn't know how to make money, and I often didn't have any money. So, but one of the things that always helped me is to translate other people's problems into potential profit. So the first question when I don't have any money anymore is like, Jesus Christ, take a deep breath, sit somewhere quiet and think of the people that are connected to me who have problems and identify the most painful problems they have and make a parallel line to what kind of problems I can take away from them through behaviors that they maybe don't want to do, and then get in contact with them and have a conversation if they are so. If I can potentially help them to make more money or get this problem out of their way. So it's like, if nothing's working for you and you have no money, you're still surrounded by an acre of diamonds in regards to possibilities, and you just need to open your eyes to what other people who have around you have for problems and see if some of your skills are sufficient enough that you can take something away from you. And sometimes this is something very unglamorous in a way. It's like, again, for my father, when he didn't have any money, he would often do the books for very, I don't know, for kebab stores or something like that. Something that was in his realm. So I think like if you have no money at all, you have to be humble enough or big enough to start very small and take problems on for other people that they want to take on until you have enough money and then to pursue your big visions, I think that's my advice. It's like, take a breather, gather your belief, make a list of what you need and what problems you can solve for other people that they would be willing to pay for if these problems would no longer exist. Yeah. And also really good is I was always blessed with friends. And my father, since he didn't have a passport, he always taught me that like friends are an ark that you can have refuge in if the flood is coming. So it's like a good friendship is like provisions for a hard time too. So when things were not working out for me and I needed to get starting, and I was always blessed with friends who were situated in a way that they could help me, and they could invest in my journey so that I can get over the next hump until I am able to walk again. So those are things that I would give as advice for this particular situation.
Yeah, of course, especially on the entrepreneurial journey, the right circle, like-minded people, it's super important. But what about romantic relationships? Would you say that you need to sacrifice specific parts of your personal life, or you would say that it's totally like applicable in in entrepreneurship to combine both personal life and also have the vision and work on it? How would you say? Maybe from your personal experience.
Well, I think it depends on who you are and what your goals are. But the truth is, I think like if you have a mission, something that you feel must be done, and you would feel like you wouldn't have fulfilled your life's responsibility if it wouldn't get executed, that the price for this is usually everything you have. And usually also everything the people who you love have. So the price usually is your life. And if I'm being honest around this, and if you are lucky enough to have a partner who believes in the vision and who makes this covenant with you, who has your back during these times, you're one of the luckiest persons in the world. But what I don't feel is possible or even like healthy is this idea of like having visions of changing the world or contributing something unique that maybe requires your entire life to do it, and at the same time be the balanced guy who takes the woman every day on a new date and comes to every birthday of their friends, and there's some truth to it that you're like what you need is like an Olympic village where everybody has like a common vision, but you're still doing the thing that will get you to where you need to go in a way. And having outsiders during this time is very difficult to manage because any grand mission takes usually most of your time that you're awake and maybe even asleep to dream up some solutions, new tools and ideas. And that's like feel like a reality of the game. If you're some games you can only play if you're all in. And some women like that. Some women like the idea of that, of having somebody like this. But also some are not compatible with that. And you cannot win if you have somebody at this side who's not just dragging down is the wrong word, but who hates you for something that maybe is your most beautiful aspect of your soul. So it's a compatibility thing and needs to have conversations about this, I feel.
And what would you think are the most common challenges of male entrepreneurs who have a big vision, big goals in life, and also want to have a beautiful, committed relationship, but they still are all about business, about their mission. So what do you think are the main challenges nowadays, especially in this dating environment? Would you say it's realistic to find a compatible partner, easy, or how would you say, what are the key things that maybe are the most challenges for a visionary man?
Most founders I meet who are miserable in this dimension of life have their misery is caused by resisting their nature in regards to who they are, I feel. And it's if you are this full-blooded founder who has dreams, that's something special actually in a way. But if you at the same time feel constantly ashamed and guilty for actually going after it and trying to get it done, then you're going to be miserable because then your career is going to suffer and you're constantly going to over promise to your partner that you're going to change, you're going to work less. What has been tremendously helpful for me is just surrender to my nature and be unapologetically myself. It's like I'll go all it. That's like I'm devoting my life to this. Go fuck yourself. You don't like us, and that's fine. Like this is who I am, and if you're crazy enough that this is something you like, maybe then I'm happy to give it my all. But I cannot betray like what I believe in a way, and that's like something that has been helpful to me is being more honest with oneself about where I want to go and where I feel I am supposed to go. And I have this, I like the word helpmate from the Bible. It's like this idea that it's like at certain points, people are sent your way and you can detect them where it's potentially possible to go together to a place and that you both find is worth traveling to, regardless of the circumstances. And that's like, I think like something I wish like compatible partners where they're not only just tolerate your strivings, but they're proud of you for doing it. They're like your super fans in the background, and they have also dreams maybe, and maybe they intertwine in some sections, but that's that's something I feel is healthy. It's just being truly honest with who you are and getting to know yourself. It's like nothing worse, I feel, than constantly hating yourself for how you behave. It is if that is actually an expression of the noblest part of your soul. Like that's like, and many good people are like that. It's like I think the greatest people in the world usually don't like themselves very much, and I think that's like such a tragedy, you know.
Hmm. As we know, there are so many founders, so many well-known people who have gone through very traumatic experiences in the past. What made them who they are? Would you say that you have a sort of experiences that made you who you are, but were super painful in the past? These experiences were super painful, but these are the experiences that made you believe in yourself, in your ambitions, goals, and they really shaped your vision. Would you say you had some literally very dark moments of your life when you realized, yeah, that's really something that's made me who I am now?
Yeah, for sure. I call this phenomenon dark meaning. It's like one of the commonalities that when I was kicked out from school, when I studied the biographies of the most accomplished people of all time, is that they sometimes had something in the earliest chapters of their life that poisoned them, where they went on a path to turn that poison into medicine for their community as a cathartic, self-described form of healing themselves.
Mm.
And for me, my current venture, Alexandrian, is a platform where people can immortalize themselves, where it's possible to talk to the great leaders of the past and present, regardless if they are dead or not. And for me, this dream was partly born because when I had this pension with my father in prison, where somebody tried to kill him in a way. And this assassination attempt of his life caused me to have a very deep encounter with the mortality of the people I love the most. And there was just this infantile part of myself where I felt it would be great if these these letters would never stop coming, and that even my son, if I should have him, should have these letters come to him in a way. And like when he got out of prison, the assassination attempt really damaged his heart. And it was like, so over 10 years I had every weekend the doctors told him pretty much to settle his affairs with his doctor's told for you're going to die. So my father desperately tried to convey everything he knew to me as a rite of passage to the family's in good hands. And over the entirety of that time, I had this unusual exposure to thinking about the finality of life. And I don't think I would be doing what I'm doing right now with this ancestral platform if it wouldn't be so darn important to me that we can converse with people who where other people try to silence them in a way. So I think if you find something like this where something painful happened to you, you can potentially utilize that pain and turn it into something beautiful. And for me, it was just always like that, I guess, which is comes with good things, like you having like you can outcompete other people, but also comes with bad things because it's like there's a part of you that is still stuck in the past, and that can be very monodimensional, darkening for the path that you are on. So you sometimes have to watch out a little bit, that you remind yourself that you're an actual human being and not a figure in a novel or something like this, so that you don't believe your own narrative too much, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Hmm. And maybe what we thought in our past, in our childhood, these beliefs, these patterns are not applicable in real life as adults. Very often we see these things that were functioning for us in the childhood, the way we were people pleasing, the way we tried our best not to be abandoned, for example. We see that we continue as adults the same behavior, although we don't need this anymore.
This is very true. And it's like one of the things that helped me was through my psychology podcast and the books I've written that I learned from people like the ancient psychologists like Jung or Freud, that the psyche is more like a house where there's like different entities or personas living in it, and that each persona was born during a certain time, and that it's actually super helpful to figure out what part of yourself is suited for what situation. Like this driven founder who would do whatever it takes to get it done might be really good for business. But if I'm on a date
Mm.
and I'm talking for 45 minutes about my stupid business,
Yeah.
it might be not the right. I need to take the remote control to my psyche and switch the channel and maybe turn in a more playful way. And that's like I think is important for people is to meet the different parts that make up their personalities and get some order and self-governance and emotional regulation for who do I need to be for what kind of situation, so that you are, it's tremendously good that you've created this protector at that point, but that might be not the good person to consult if it comes down to whether you should fire somebody or not, or whether you should go on a second date in a way, but so it's like having a little gap in between your emotional advisors and you as the leader of your being, what you're actually going to do. So that's like something that's super important. It's like get to know yourself, all of the selves that make up you, and make sure that you are not being possessed by something. And a lot of psychopathologies are actually partial possessions of submodalities of yourself. A depressed person is possessed by grief, and maybe a person who suffers from anxiety is maybe possessed by doubt, or by maybe I've talked to anorexic people, for instance, they are possessed by shame and self-guilt and self-hate. And it's just important, I feel, that we get to meet these people, these inner people, and win governments back over our behavior and not give them full control over us as a host in a way. I think that's really is important in a way. Not sure if that answered your question, but that came to my mind.
Yeah, I was just thinking how important it is to realize these parts of ourselves that are not relevant anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's for I had this great founder in Bali. It was, and he had this cute ritual. When you're a founder and you start something, you have to play so many roles. It's like you're trying to play the orchestra, but all the different instruments have to be played by you in the beginning. And one of the cute habits he had was he would pretend to put on different hats. He's like, Daniel, I'm CEO right now.
Mm.
Now I'm like a chief product officer.
Yeah.
Now I'm chief financial officer, to give different perspectives. And that really allowed me to understand like, oh, like this is really important that we are able to switch between modes, and also that we have other people who help you to be the correct version of you for the right moment. For instance, like when he was in visionary mode, exploring new ideas, and I was in sales mode, I was just killing the ideas. I was like, but we need to have more leads. And he would just like be brilliant. He'd come up with new prototypes. And I was like, yeah, but what about the product market fit? It was like, I was being the wrong creative sparring partner for that particular situation. And that's like also like a good question you can have for other people. It's like, who do I need to be for you in this situation? And then you help each other to do something beautiful and ideally come to more creative and fruitful conversations.
You know what I have noticed here in Europe? That's, of course, that's a society that has this women who have the same rights with men, but very often women forget to switch off this hats of being the strong, independent woman with the man she's next to. Because it's also challenging, of course, nowadays to have all the hats at once. But very often women forget about that. And that's also something that I remind myself very often. Tanya, hello. Like you need to switch this hat. You don't need to be in the same mode all the time.
There's any kind of we have needs, as particularly as I'm speaking from male perspective here. Women these days are so, technology is changing the roles and what's possible for genders so quickly these days in a way. But there's human needs that are very ancient, that are very stable. For instance, men we're a bit like dogs. We need to bark at some people, protect like our house, bring some food, like a bone, and we need to be patted on the back and say that we did a good job. But if we now have women who can do everything, it's not that this need for us being able to provide something to protect you, or for being seen, suddenly goes away. So I think it's just important that you understand like what the people around you need, and that you also don't deprive them of the thing that nourish their souls in a way. Which is, I mean, it's fine if you're this like this in business. If you're a hyper talented woman, you have something to offer to the world, go for it. But that doesn't, it's incredibly emasculating for many men if they don't at least have some screen time during the day where they can be the man. No, and I think there's a little necessity for theater and for having a feeling of how to create a good stage play in the romantic realm, if that makes any sense.
And I believe also today, nowadays, we can see that both men and women can be totally fine alone, but that's also one of the first generation when we can choose a partner, not because we need them, but because we choose them as a person. Women are independent, so they're not there for a man just for a financial, for example, benefits, and men are also pretty sufficient nowadays. So what do you think, what are the qualities that are important for a founder? What are the qualities in a woman that are important and will be always important? Doesn't matter which era we are living in.
That's a beautiful and deep question. I think people these days have forgotten what a relationship is actually for. And I feel there's an incredible disconnect in the confines of civilization, that we've forgotten what love actually is supposed to foster. And I think it's about survival. And so I think it's about not what you need and what makes you, everybody wants to feel good these days. But I think the real question is, what are optimal circumstances for children to blossom into everything they can be? And what is like the strongest configuration of human dynamics that can lead to us being great servants of God? And it's like, and for me, it's like, if I'm finding somebody who makes me feel good, there's something wrong with your aim. Because for me, for instance, I'm more like an idea and creative guy, and I enjoy surrounding myself with other visionaries. But in order to run my company, I have to have people who are very different than myself. And because otherwise we just like hang around in a room and talk about ideas all day, and nothing gets built.
Yeah.
I need, and it's like I need engineers, I need technical people, I need people who have high operational skills. And if you and your partner just optimize for mutual happiness, I think that you are very young in regards to your understanding of humanity. And I think a much more interesting question is what would be potential parents that could give birth to somebody who changes the world and or contributes their talents. And that's a much different conversation, I feel, because then it's not about you anymore, but it's about something bigger than the both of you.
Do you believe that this family unit that has been before is still relevant for the society nowadays, like a nuclear family where both of people are married, have a kid or kids? What do you think? What's your opinion on that?
I think one of the great, like Mike, I'm a bit biased in this question, because the purpose of Alexandria, my company, is to not just resurrect the great people of the past through modern technologies, but to also make sure that we don't lose rituals that kept humanity together and healthy. And one of the things we've lost is understanding the importance of family. We've outsourced some of the most sacred duties to the state, taking care of our children, raising them in schools, taking care of our elderlies. We just dismiss them in Germany and give them to elderly homes in a way. It's just like from work, everything is being taken care of by other people. And one of the things is that this makes you, I don't know, the state doesn't really care about you. It's not a real person. But I think if you have a family as a unit, I think that a healthy world is made up by beautiful families who form this structures that are very stable and have the room to create healthy, independent, and defined human beings. And that's I think it's actually really important that we don't lose that. And every time I'm going to the streets here in Berlin, I see so many addicted people who are on the streets, and I can't help but feel that this wouldn't have happened if there wasn't a series of tragic circumstances in the families where these people are coming from. You know, it's usually people buying with drugs. If there's a disconnection happened that was in their family where they're trying to cope with the pain that is unbearable. And almost all unbearable pains ensue from deep forms of abandonment, betrayal happened by the people who were supposed to protect us. And I think like if you have a strong family, we wouldn't see the symptoms of a broken down society every day where we are going. I think that's the West, that something is off with it. And I didn't see this when I was traveling around the world in Asian countries or African countries, because the family is still the foundation of civilization over there.
So you still believe that a family unit can be a strong foundation for the person to grow, to evolve, and also maybe discover their talent?
Yeah, an encouraging father who gives you the feeling that you can accomplish everything, but also where in the back, you know, this guy can protect me, and we would be fine even if the whole world would go against us. And a mother who believes you, who always provides this safe space where there's an environment of play and eternal nourishment happens. I think those things are fundamentally important to create a healthy human being. And sometimes your family's fucked up. Sometimes you need to find parental figures outside, in the books, in mentors, in friendships, in the partner or something. But none of these things are replaceable, I feel. And doesn't mean that you can create a productive human being, but like a powerful soul is usually not created by accident.
I can totally agree with you, especially based on my childhood. I remember that I repressed for such a long time the pain that I had, because I didn't have this strong parental figure of my father. And then, of course, it also affected my confidence, the way I believed in myself. So many things where I had doubts. Should I do it? Can I do it or not?
Yeah, no, it's when I can show you later some messages that I received from my father. I'm currently, for my new platform, I'm creating a version of him for my future son, because he's very sick right now. And it's whenever I'm in deep trouble, I sometimes wrote him, and then I get these. I remember I was once in Cambodia, and I was like 1 foot in prison. I had like $6 left, not enough money to go back to Thailand. And here I always get these messages from him where it's like, "You're gonna figure it out." And it's like, there was never any doubt in any moment of our conversations during the entirety of the time. And this sense of conviction in yourself is giving to you in a way. And I don't think that you can artificially create that or give it even to yourself. I think you need to be lucky enough to have somebody or get somebody like that into your life who just sees you for who you can be, and who thinks this guy is a fucking commando. We can throw in even like my name, Daniel. The reason there's a prophet in the Bible, and there's like one scene where Daniel is being thrown into the den of lions, and he's protected, and he makes friends with the lions pretty much, and gets out. And it was like, he always told me the stories to equip me with armor, that there was never doubt or fear in my life, and I say, you will be able to handle whatever life would throw at you. And this is very hard to give this as a woman, because you give different things, you know. And I think you need both to create like an unconquerable human being. At least this is my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, especially this narrative nowadays that we don't need a man, we don't need women. I don't believe in this, because actually, in order to have this sustainable family that has both parents, and not like heal your childhood trauma till 30 years old or 40 years old. And some people just don't know about that. So they're still in these narratives from the childhood that were applicable that time, but not relevant anymore. They're so many talented people that would love to create their ventures, show up, but all these fears from the past, they block them to show up more as a person who they truly are. So maybe you could give a sort of advice to founders, a sort of insights, how to support yourself in different situations, how to show up when it's difficult, how to start from scratch when you're really at the bottom of your life. So what would you recommend?
There's a tool I've written on Karim University where most of my courses are for free there because I'm busy building companies. But there's one tool called the Belief Detective, and it's quite interesting because what you just mentioned in regards to the generation of family, for instance, it's you need to be able as a leader of a family or a company, the immune system in regards to preserving the culture and the soul of the company or the venture or the family. That means that if an idea from the outside, a belief system comes in that can be deadly, you need to be able to detect it, deflect it, and get it out. And there's many ideas that are much more dangerous than any poison that you can potentially encounter in the natural world. I'm in Germany, for instance. We had ideas here that nearly killed the world in regards to triggered World War. And at the moment, there's many ideas that are life is bad. Human beings are cancer. It would be better if human beings would no longer exist. I don't need a man. I don't need it. I would rather focus on my career than having children. As a man, all women are bad. It's like the good ones.
Diggers, all
of them gold diggers, all the world good women thought people are not to be trusted ever. It's all these belief systems that are grown as protective mechanisms from somebody. They don't even have to be your own brain children, can initiate you into a pathway that leads to hell and takes other people with it. And we right now have an epidemic of women who are so at war with their own femininity and the miraculous nature that they can give birth to life, that birth rates around the entire world are declining, and so many women are being led into lives that are deprived of purpose and meaning because the very thing that gives you meaning is life. And if you spend all your day like getting a bigger bank account, more followers on Instagram, this may feel good for a couple of years, but eventually your body will tell you that you have missed the grand objective of your life, which is to survive. And that's like something I think leaders need to be aware of, to differentiate between belief systems that will lead them to a better existence and to the flourishment of everything around them. Or there's a painting that I'm just thinking of. There's a painting in the Bible which I really like. It's this painting of it's called the Tree of Life. I think people should Google this up. On the one side, you have a messianic figure. In that story, it's Christ, but I think it can be other people too. And it's like that's a pathway that leads to the propagation of your genes and to survival. It's like the ideal heroic part of life. And the other side is a skull as a fruit. And it's like this idea is like sin. It's like they really warned us about the idea that certain belief systems, certain behavior patterns lead either to the survivors of all or to the extinction of the individual or the particular cohort which these people are thinking about. And that's like something feels tremendously important, is having the wisdom to hear like what is being said to me right now and what am I believing and what are the long-term consequences of these kind of things, in a way. Like a belief defense system. That's like I think what everybody should learn for themselves.
And I also think question the things that we believe, because very often we just don't think critically, but take it as for granted what we had from our family, from our society, and we don't question these things that may not be relevant at all for our life and not benefit the way we exist, the way we live our life, but even creates the struggles, the troubles.
It's one good advice is treat these belief systems as if they were personas and negotiate with them, see what they're looking like and see what they're saying and what do they want from me, and ask myself, it's like, if I listen to this, where this will lead me, and even are these even my own thoughts, or it's like where are they coming from? And it's like I'm in Berlin, so Berlin is like it's an interesting cultural breeding ground for the wildest ideas, and sometimes I meet people who are I met somebody yesterday who was incredibly communistic. And the interesting was that none of the ideas that he had were his own. I was like, interesting. I'm talking to somebody who's completely possessed by a ghost of the past of a guy like who tried to create like a cult, who succeeded at it. And so it's like, I think like a good question for everybody is like, study the great works of the past and invite them into your psychic house, but don't forget who the landlord is. And I don't know, like some people, they try to prove their ex-partner wrong that they left it, and then they're no longer the protagonists of their own life. And that's like maybe a good question. It's like, what life am I, whose life am I living? And sometimes it's you're just cannon fodder for some person who has some agenda with you, who doesn't even care, or like you're still stuck in some narrative that you had a couple of years ago. Yeah.
Or where is this voice coming from? Because very often it's from even from parents. Some beliefs that we were taught in our childhood, and then we just step by step reinvent these beliefs over and over again.
Yeah, and it's also it's then going one step further is, would I listen to would I have this person on a podcast and teach me about what I want to do? And it's like, for instance, I love my mother. She's one of the most wonderful, encouraging people ever, but she always wants to protect me. But the best path for me forward is one where I seek danger that I can grow on. Right? This is how men usually grow. We find challenges that are a little bit higher and we defeat them and we grow. But so it's like if I'm feeling fear in a particular situation, like I shouldn't call this person. What if? Then you usually can defend you. Hey mom, thanks for taking care of me, but I got this. And this inner diplomacy is something that can help you to move into the right direction by listening to the correct voices of yourself. And there's every voice has their fine place. If you were abandoned as a child and you don't trust people, well, there's certain situations where it actually completely makes sense to maybe not trust anybody. If your environment was shit when you grew up, you were surrounded by assholes and predatory people, maybe it make total sense. But now, are you still in that same environment? And then you can maybe move along and only have that as a small part, as an advisor, rather as the CEO of your cognition.
What are the things that make you alive every day when you wake up? What is this drive passionate about? Not only in business, it can be in life in general.
One of the things that lately inspires me is like through my work, my podcast, my even like the new platform, it's all about this helping people to discover what part of them is magic or like preservable. What is the spark of you that animates you? And sometimes I have conversations where I notice little nuances that make up the signature of the soul that I'm in front of. And discovering these little moments of authenticity of like, oh, this is you. That's something very special at the moment, is to not just meet people, but encounter, like really get to know them like nobody ever has. And that's like, and then watching their face as they also notice like, oh, and for when seeing them fall in love with that part of themselves, that's something very special that through my work in psychology, through my advisory, I am currently blessed with, where I'm helping people to become a fan of themselves, become a fan of our species, and not be so judgmental in regards to who they are, but have instead like a sense of wonder in regards to how weird this experience is. I even like this right now. It's like, it's your first podcast. It's super cool, and you're doing so well. And this, like seeing little moments like you just jumping on a whim and saying, "I'm gonna do this new thing right now." What courage this takes.
Although we got to know each other today.
But it's like there's I think the world conspires on behalf of the courageous, and that's like me meeting this as I feel like an old man, like seeing this sometimes is very special. That's like something that makes me feel alive if I see other people coming to life. That makes sense.
And I also believe that when we see our authentic self, then we are able to see and accept other people as they are. We don't try to change them. We don't try to hope that they will change for us in the future just because we had hoped in the past that our parental figure would change or would treat us differently, but literally seeing the person for who they are, their core values, and then we understand for ourselves, do I align with them? Do I see, for example, the cooperation, the future with them? Doesn't matter what kind of goals we are talking about. But literally seeing them for who they are, not our projections. And it's so important because we tend to see the illusion instead of literally seeing the soul of another person. When we talk about, for example, deeper relationships, that's so important.
It's beautiful, and it's also counterintuitive. You sometimes when you're accepting somebody as they are, you're making room for them to change in a way. But it's like usually one of my favorite quotes is from Carl Jung, great German psychologist. It's like, condemnation oppresses, integration liberates. And it's the strange thing where if we accept that something exists in somebody else or in ourselves, we find a proper way to integrate it down the way, it loses its power over us. And then people are very flexible and adaptive and plastic. And I think that's like something where I feel like creative conversation, like in a podcast, can be transformative, where it's like, you're not here to change me. You don't have any agenda and behavior change on me own words. It's more like you're that's the great therapists like Carl Rogers knew this. They listened like you would listen when you are visiting an artist in their gallery and they're showing you their painting. You're not going in there like a critic and saying, what the fuck, why it is this, there should be more blue. When a true artist, you try to understand it, you have a conversation, you're describing what you're seeing, ask the other person why there's some things, but you're not so judgmental. And magic happens when you, I think, try to experience people more rather than to just go around and have an extreme eye for what's wrong with people. Because then you just go depressed and disappointed by everybody you meet. But maybe it's just your lens of you being depressed by someone else, and now you're looking for fulfill that particular narrative you formed back in the day.
And I also believe that acceptance overall about every situation that is happening in our environment, in our life, when we have the acceptance, when we don't try to fight the situation itself, give the space to the situation, then we are more at peace with ourselves, because we can be focused on ourselves instead of trying to compensate it somewhere else. Very often we try to heal others, we try to help others, when we try to avoid dealing with our own problems, with our own challenges, or things that we are not satisfied with.
Greta Thunberg comes to mind. And it was like, she was just like, noticed there was this big, she went on this boat to change the world pretty much in a way. And one of the things you learn as an entrepreneur is just changing your little company is unbelievable hard, and it's almost impossible. And I feel like when you're actively trying to learn the hard way of like just building a small screwdriver like for a mechanic that actually works, there's a miracle. And then you're very shy and going through the world and criticizing grand structures and proposing your plans for changing everything, because you've been humbled by the complexity of the constraints of your own existence. I think when people are a little bit more like this, the world would be maybe a more understanding place, and we would just have a little bit more patience with each other and accept that we as a very young species, we have lots to learn, but it's also, things are really tough and things are really complicated, and it's we're still here, so to say. So maybe take a chill pill and not scream so much at each other and help each other a little bit more.
Daniel, thank you so much for our conversation. It was literally a pleasure for me. Thank you so much.
Likewise. And for everybody who wants to learn more about some of the projects, you can go to danielkarim.com. There's lots of free courses. I have my own podcast where I interview wonderful luminaries and visionaries such as yourself. And in the future, when we are launched, you will also see there Alexandrian.ai, the new AI archive, which we are building anyway.
Thanks for sharing, and we'll be glad to see you very soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
You're so good at this.
Oh, yes, I was in the flow.
And get a hug. Let's
Oh my God, hopefully everything.
Very good, very good, very good. Very good.
Yeah.
See if everything recorded.
Oh my God,
Looks good.
my.
Looks good. Yeah, we got it. Wonderful.